don't really feel like pop culture is a part of Black culture because I feel like pop culture is propped up by Black culture, so they can't be the same thing. It's got to be
Mm.
they got to be two separate things because it's like a chicken or egg scenario. And like we definitely came first before pop culture. You know what I'm saying?
What's up, Shine Hard family? Welcome to a season 7 episode of Shine Hard Conversations, where we sit down with the nation's top Black cultural leaders to unify and mobilize the next generation of Black wealth builders. At Shine Hard, our mission is to close the racial wealth gap, and we do that by helping you discover the wealth that you already possess. We just launched our first cohort of our online course, the Legacy Accelerator. It's an 8-week course that will help you discover your wealth, comprehensive approach, not just budgeting and investing, but history and heritage, all the way to life insurance, power of attorney, and everything in between. Incredible course. We have 50 members already in the course right now, and it's an ongoing thing. So if you think you want to join, hit the website, shinehardfamily.org, and you can learn all about it. Now, today, I have a very special guest here, a revolutionary thinker, an activist, but also a businessman at the same time, Mr. Rashad Lambert. He is the founder of Forbes the Culture and also the director of culture and community at Forbes. And I think it's incredible how he parlayed his entrepreneurial venture and community momentum into a role at a Fortune 500 company. He'll tell us a little bit about that, but also about money sense and his relationship with wealth. Now he basically leads his family and the community at the same time. So I'm happy to have you here, Rashad. It's time to shine. So let's dive right in, man. It's become clear to me that passionate people come from all different backgrounds.
Mhm.
Some of them come from lower socioeconomic status. Some of them come from generational wealth, but that doesn't determine the future for them per se, and it doesn't determine their level of ambition. Tell us more about what growing up was like for you.
Uh, so I grew up. I was the youngest in the household of my siblings. My older brother and my older sister. My mother raised us mainly. Dad wasn't really around, and I kind of started working at like an early age. I got into entrepreneurship and entrepreneurial thinking at a pretty young age. I started thinking about how I could make money because I wanted to help out, but also because I wanted to have my own money. I didn't like being told no. I didn't like people saying that I couldn't have something because of how much it costs. So I was like, okay, well, I want to be able to buy it myself, or I want to be able to do this thing or like experience this thing myself, and I'll fund it. I don't need I don't need allowance or any of that kind of stuff. You know,
Mhm.
I'll
What
give
city?
allowance. I'll
What city did you grow up in?
West Philly. Well, Philadelphia, but I always specifically say West Philly. You got to specify.
On the playground is where you spent most of your days?
every it's like it's kind of so funny at this point because I always make the joke that like Will Smith is not from West Philly because he's from Overbrook. So like whenever people say that, I'm like, nope, wrong place, different place.
That's what's up, man. That's funny. So I'm sure you hear that a lot. And so you were raised by your mom. You have the 2 siblings.
Yeah, well, no, I have a lot more siblings than that, but
Oh,
the two that I was raised with, my older sister and my older brother didn't live with us all the time, but he was in and out of that, house. He's like about 10 years on me. So
got it. Got it. I'm thinking because it's a common, I guess, pattern for a lot of Black families that we're not having conversations about money
mhm.
at the dinner table. And I think
Yeah,
that can sometimes affect us negatively. What was your relationship with money as a kid? Was your mom talking about it or not?
my mom definitely was talking about money. My mom, my uncle, my friends and family, my cousin, everybody was talking about money. So when I say I got into business at like an early age, I initially started like helping out with my family business. My aunts and uncles were into like wholesaling, and they had retail stores all over West Philly and in the malls, and we would go and like help out with the stores or go help out in the mall, or eventually we like earned our own stand. My cousin and I, we worked our own stand. We actually is funny. We sold Avon. Like they were trying to instill in us the idea, like all of the pieces of how a business works, not just like when you get older, here's what you'll inherit. It's like, here is how the business works. Here's everything. You can learn every piece of it, from the lowest job to the most important job, from like all the accounting to how we do like inventory, things of that nature. So money was always a very prevalent conversation in all the households. I spent a lot of time at my cousin's house. I spent, a lot of time with all different family members, and everybody seemed to be having conversations about money. Like it was very, very prevalent. I think my mother specifically wanted to, she wanted to instill in me the, and I guess it worked, the a sense of community, and the idea that I think Steve, my photographer, he calls it the spirit of Ubuntu, which is that I am because you are, or you are because I am. Like seeing someone as yourself. And my mom wanted to instill that in me, sort of like financially, like doing well is one thing, but also doing good is extremely important also. So making sure that never forgetting that sense of like giving something back to the things that helped you achieve and the people that helped you achieve along the way.
Yeah, man, that's beautiful. What's that phrase or that term again?
Ubuntu, Ubuntu. Stephen C.W. Taylor has a fine art gallery in Philadelphia. It's the only fine art gallery in the country that's owned by a black person, and it's called the Ubuntu Fine Art Gallery because he's displaying pieces that are representative of, you know, how he sees the world through his vision as himself. But just
How has
even just
that
something like that.
philosophy affected you as a young adult? Growing up in
Yeah,
your 20s and now to where you are today.
yeah. I mean, this is something that like you got to think about it, right? When the neighborhoods that I spent most of my time in, or that I grew up in different cities, not even just in Philly, but in North Carolina and Virginia, all over the place. The common theme was that in these areas, Black people had been most successful when we had some sort of like camaraderie, or when we were bartering, or when we were sharing resources, or purchasing from each other, right?
That's nationally.
Yeah, yeah. It's not just it's like everywhere. Every community where we have congregated, we have created a sense of like our own marketplace. So that concept is sort of embedded in me from out of necessity. I was always told, my mom always told me to take the extra block walk and go to the Black store versus going to the closest store, because this is going to pour into our community and this isn't. So I'm always trying, like, and not all, like, I'm saying always, but I didn't really get it at first. Of course, it didn't resonate with me the same way, because I spent so much time around my people that I didn't feel uh, that it was uneven. I felt like we were treated fairly based off of the experiences that I had in that community. But then once I got out of that community and realized that people outside of the community don't treat me the way the people in the community do, that's when it kind of clicked that I need to make sure that this community is taken care of, no matter how much business I do outside.
Yeah, and that's a very interesting phenomenon as well, because there's a conversation around Black people who are upwardly mobile making it out of the quote unquote hood and then moving out of the hood and taking their dollars and their influence to a white neighborhood or to some other community. Even Tupac talked about that. He was like, I'm miserable because I live in the white neighborhood and they hate me, and then I go to the black. If I stay where I'm from, they'll rob me.
Yeah, trying to kill me.
You know what I'm saying? And so I think that's a very like fascinating dichotomy that maybe some black, young millionaires or black upwardly mobile professionals could experience. But you're also a father, right?
I am of two.
So yeah, father of two. So how has your experience, with money and thinking about lifting as you climb, and even growing up, with your mom and your dad not around, how has that affected your money mindset with your kids and how you raise them?
So everything that I have learned, I've applied. Like I've
Mm,
learned a lot of different things. Like I didn't, of course, I started off as a teen parent, so I definitely didn't know it all then. But
damn.
as I have grown and as I've matured and as I've been like educated, and so as I've been educated and as I've self-educated, it's been an interesting process. Thank you very much. To kind of like implement these things in my own life. It's easy to like get on a panel or two and talk about it, but explaining financial concepts to your own children is it's like it it's not a dice roll. It's not an exact science either, but it can't be a dice roll because it's like I have to get this one right. I may get on a panel and misspeak or say something incorrectly, or I'll
Mm,
teach a class and I may use a figure that's outdated. But when I'm dealing with my household, I have to make sure that I'm sure, if that
yeah,
makes any sense.
yeah,
And the way that they look at me is different than my students look at me. And I mean, they're like my life students, whereas my students only get me a few hours a week. They're like, okay, so what's the next lesson? Like, what's next?
mhm,
Okay, well, what do we do now? So I've I've stressed the importance of credit. I've stressed
yeah.
the importance of how to utilize business credit, lines of credit, things of that nature, like
Mhm.
investing.
How
We've been
old are your
talking a
kids?
lot about crypto, 18 and 12.
Okay, wow. Okay, yeah. So they're at the
Yeah,
age where they need to really start thinking about
exactly.
money in a very serious way.
Absolutely, absolutely, absolutely.
That's
Yeah,
awesome.
yeah. But we've been having these conversations every time. It's really funny. Like we'll be at an event or we're in a car and I'm playing a podcast and somebody says something that I've said to them before. They go before I even say it. They go, I know you told us that, like, or I know you said that because I'll just give them a look like you like this is.
Mhm.
Like I know you think I'm just dad, but like now you've heard Malcolm Gladwell or Oprah or somebody else is saying the same thing I told you. So maybe,
Yeah,
maybe it means something when it comes from them.
yeah. I guess that's like rite of passage for fatherhood or parenthood. Of course, someone else has to say it, and then it's like verified.
Right.
Um, I experienced that same thing. I have a 2-year-old daughter, a little different, but I'm at the phase now where she's starting to formulate sentences and have her
Mhm.
own opinions, and I'm having to like negotiate or recorrect or redirect her, and that's
Mhm.
becoming like, okay, I'm really stepping into a parenting role where I'm not just
Yeah.
like keeping a kid alive. Now I'm like having to make sure she's doing the right things. And
Right.
oh man, so that's, I can only imagine what it will be like over the next 18 years. But I heard you talk about some entrepreneurial things that you're showing to your kids, and I want to really pivot now into your journey of entrepreneurship because you wear
Sure.
multiple hats, um, as
Yeah.
the founder of.
Physically also.
Yeah, yeah, me too. You see, I got my dad hat on right now.
Yeah, I like that. I like that.
You're doing a lot of different things, even sporty marketing, which I didn't mention. I
Mhm.
would love for you to just add more color around, the different roles you have and streams of income and the work that you're doing.
Sure. Uh, so this one is always like difficult, and again, this gets into things we can share and things we can't, right? so,
Mhm, mhm.
Sporty Marketing Group was actually my first full time business when I left corporate America in 2009, June of 2009. I don't know, I think 11, 12 year anniversary just passed. I think it's 12 years. Once I hit 10, I lost count. But of when I became a full time entrepreneur. Us with Sporty Marketing Group, but that business started out to help people that had brick and mortar businesses kind of like grow into the 21st century and to translate those sales into online sales. And then it grew from there um, to like branding and then more like experiential marketing, which kind of split off into another agency, which became Culture Makers, which eventually became Forbes of Culture,
Mm.
in a different way. But
Mm.
there's Cerebellum H2O, which is my alkaline water company. I Much Cafe, which is a healthy living and lifestyles cafe, all halal food. If you ever come to Philly, 1233 North 31st Street. Um, uh, I guess that would be. I mean, that's kind of the ones that are more public facing. I invest. I'm not sure how much detail I'm supposed to give, but
Well,
in
tell
addition
us
to
more
that,
about
I have a
Forbes the Culture and
yeah.
your role as director of community and culture at Forbes.
Sure. So, director. So I kind of like interchange between two ways I say it is whether I say I'm director or like senior vice president. Every corporate structure is different. So like
Mm.
director level somewhere else could mean something different. People get confused. It's not a movie. It's not like when I say a director is like a senior vice president role, but that role is a dual role. So I'll start with forms of culture, and then I'll kind of get into what the role is. So for those who don't know, because I know there's a lot of people that are watching this that may not be familiar, Forms of Culture is a community organization for Black and Brown professionals, athletes, students, and entrepreneurs to connect and to collaborate so we can all change the game together and to create more equitable pathways for Black and Brown people. There's a lot of times people talk about, we're pushing for like equality, which is not it. I've never pushed for equality. I feel like equality is subjective, but it's the equity piece that is really important. So I
Mm.
want to make sure that while we are not a monolith, Black people are not a monolith, and we have many seats at many different tables, but we need to make sure that we each have a seat at our table. So before we go back into these individual tables, we can decide what our agenda is. Operating
Mm.
from one common agenda is the only way that we're actually going to get anything done. And it
Mm.
doesn't turn us into a monolith. It just means that we agree on at least this idea or this set of ideas that we
Right.
are trying to push for.
We had a
So
conversation just yesterday about group economics,
mm,
and my brother Gerald Moore mentioned a key philosophy from Dr. Claude Anderson that was around a code of conduct
mm,
and the lack thereof in our community. And I think that's something that you're alluding to is just having some basic guidelines for our community, whether it's socially or professionally or politically, that we can all agree on and say, this is how Black Americans move, and this is what we do, and this is what we don't do, and this is what happens if you don't, follow the code of conduct. Is
mm.
that something that you feel is important? And like, what are the long-term outcomes that you guys hope to see in equitable pathways?
So it, I I sort of agree with that, but I guess the part that I don't agree with is it really that becomes extremely subjective.
Mm.
So it becomes we live right now in this like microwave cancel culture generation. So because of that, it's difficult to say. I mean, of course, there are like extreme deal breakers, but then there's stuff that it really depends. Like, somebody may tweet the wrong thing, and it may not have meant what it was taken as, and now there's pressure to cancel this person or something like that. Those sort of things are subjective. What I feel is, I guess the part that I do agree with, which is where I would mainly want to focus, is that I think that um, group economics, cooperative economics, qualitative nepotism, like all of these things kind of go hand in hand. And the basic idea is like my philosophy from before I started Forbes of Culture, and it'll be my philosophy until I die, which is anybody that's ready can go.
Mm.
We don't have the option for second and third chances at this point, right? We have to make sure that when there are opportunities that are presented, we are sending our best and brightest, because that keeps the door open. The only way that we keep the door open is by making sure that the people that we send through it initially are the ones that are prepared to do a good enough job, or to create a big enough company, or whatever the case may be, to take
Mm-hmm.
the opportunity and handle it in the best way, so more opportunities come. The first
Yeah.
time that somebody goes through the door and doesn't deliver, the door shuts, and we can't have that. So
Mm-hmm.
that's just that's the best way that I can describe it. I'm not a gatekeeper in that way, where I really am more so like, hey, if you're ready, you can go. Anybody. It's not a there's no order. There's no order of operations. If you're ready and you get there, then you can go. But you got
Yeah.
to be ready.
So I want to talk about culture
Sure.
because it seems like Forbes is known for money and kind of ranking the next generation of wealth builders and
Hmm.
entrepreneurs. And then culture is very subjective in terms of what it means. Depending on what country you're in, culture can be a little bit
Right.
different, right? But
All
for
right.
Black Americans, I feel like we look at culture as pop culture and relevant trends and terminology, or just things that are native to our life experience.
That
What
was
does
yeah. That's what I would say it is.
what is culture? How would you define culture, and what are some disadvantages and advantages that we have with Black culture right now?
So yeah, I would say Black culture is a collection of common experiences, of common lived experiences, and um, a combo of common lived experiences, our history, um, our current trajectory, which could include pop culture, but is not. I don't really feel like pop culture is a part of Black culture, because I feel like pop culture is propped up by Black culture, so they can't be the same thing. It's got to be
Mm,
they got to be two separate things, because it's like a chicken or egg scenario. And like we definitely came first before pop culture. You know what I'm saying?
yeah.
So so um so but I look at it as that, just that idea there is that um we have fueled some of the largest, you know, movements in pop culture, in every industry, in finance, and I mean, it's well, I don't want to date this, but it's June, so Pride, like all of these large movements were fueled by Black culture,
Mm.
and have
How
been
so?
led by, huh?
How so?
Because it, whenever something is created by us, and is become and it becomes a popularized in our community, it becomes transposed into something that is used for profit that's outside of our control. So
Mm,
when you say what is culture, I'm saying it's the things that we create, and then the things that we how we relate to each other. It's our like it's our language. Once it makes it into film and television, then we already know it's on its way out. That's the end of that's the end of that's the exit from the culture.
uh,
Once you saw somebody on TV saying bling bling, bling bling was already gone long. Like the phrasing of it was already gone. The
mhm,
things that we wear, the things that we have created and made cool, like even our social networks, by the time they reach their full popularity, like if you look at, I mean, I hate to diss them, but if you look at like a Clubhouse, like
mhm,
we took this platform to its max popularity, and then it was over, and now it's on to the next thing. But that's what
mhm.
continues to happen when it becomes pop culture, is when we don't have our hands on it. So that is kind of where going back to the whole like Forbes the culture thing is we were building this community prior to getting involved with Forbes. What Forbes did for some people that have limited vision is it legitimized it for them. It's like, oh, okay, well now this company is a part of it. Well now it must be something when there's nothing. It didn't change anything. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It didn't change anything. We're still doing the same thing. It's still the same ideas and same concepts from before. It's evolving, and now we have a larger platform, but it didn't turn it into the Forbes version of Forbes of culture. It's still Forbes of
Right.
culture.
Yeah. And that's the funny thing that so many times people can't see your vision until it's seen by everyone's view.
Yeah, yeah. It's a well, I mean, and then this is another thing that's true for Black culture. A lot of things. This is kind of like the contradictory point to what I was saying before is that a lot of things in Black culture are not seen as legitimate until they are
Mm.
co-signed from outside of the culture. If you think
That's
about
the
it
whole white
from a
ice
Black
is colder.
Yeah, yeah. If you think about it from I'm a black, that's really funny. But if you think about it from a black community standpoint, things that are popular or pe- people that are successful in the community, they're just looked at as somebody that's successful in the community until someone from outside of the community says your success means something. Now they're like elevated, and now like other people in that community are like, oh, okay, oh, I see you now. When I mean, they've been there, but now it's kind of like because of this other entity that you
Yeah.
respect. You know,
Yeah.
that's
That happens a
it's kind
lot.
of common. Yeah,
I feel like we have to really take that energy and spin it into gold. Where right now, for example, the societal winds are trending towards all of this diversity, equity, and inclusion, or
yeah,
social equity and funding Black initiatives, and all of this kind of, it seems performative for some companies, and some are doing it and getting it right. But a
it's
lot
a lot of
of
window dressing though, Johnny.
I know, and I get both sides of it, but a lot of Black professionals or commentary is like they feel a certain way, like they feel is disingenuous. But then I'm kind of like, you know, reparation is not gonna be pretty always. It's not gonna be dressed in a beautiful wedding dress and everyone's saying kumbaya when you're getting the reparation, right? It's like
No,
they
not
don't
at
want to
all.
give it to you and you're getting it. So let's just say, all right, thank you. Give me what's mine. Give me what you should have been giving me. And
Hmm.
I'm now going to take it and translate that into some value in my community and open that door, like you said, for the next, right? And so I think it's important that we as Black people put our goals before our emotions in terms of,
Absolutely.
in this realm of social justice and wealth building. We really got to put the goal first, and so get out of
Hmm.
our own feelings and out of our own way. um,
Exactly. I
what do you feel like
100%
the
agree.
perception of money is in the Black community?
I mean, that's a really loaded question. That's like saying, what do you think of the perception is of like oil in an Arab country? Like, it is like it's kind of like when you. I feel like it's different. It depends on where you are. There's places like you know if I had to choose, like there's places like Prince George's County where their perception of money is different than somebody that's from North Philadelphia or from on the south side of Chicago or a person that black people. I'm saying still these are all still black communities, but the black community in Compton, California is different from a Tulsa, Oklahoma, or
Mhm.
you know or downtown Detroit. I mean, or west side of Detroit. So that's what I'm saying. It kind of depends on where they are. I think your perception of money has a lot to do in your community. It has a lot to do with where you draw your influences from,
Mhm.
whether it's family, celebrity, whether it's from actual financial professionals. Go figure. What your relationship is with like banking at a young age. Are you spending a lot of time at check cashing places, or are you going to banks? Do
Mm-hmm.
you have direct deposit? Do you, those sort of things, I think, affect people's idea of 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 money. I couldn't really give you a one size fit all answer for
Mm.
what the perception is of money in the Black community. I can give you a stereotype.
Right, of
I
course.
can give you a stereotype for any race of people, but
Well,
I think it just
I have
makes
a
more
theory,
sense to kind of individualize.
and I think you're absolutely right. You obviously can't put everyone in the same bucket because it does depend on your influences. But my theory, when I put it into a framework, I feel like financial wellness comes in four different forms. And you look at financial dignity, financial security, financial independence, and then financial freedom.
Okay.
And if you would break those down, it's like financial dignity is just being able to pay your bills at the end of the month. So many of us
Okay.
have too much month at the end of our money. And so
Hmm.
we're always fighting in scarcity. We're always,
Hmm.
impoverished and have this mindset of lack. Then
Hmm.
financial security is having enough money, but basically having enough money to go 3 months without a job. If you were to get laid
Okay.
off, could you live
Yeah,
and
because you
maintain
survive.
without a new job, right? That's security. That's kind of what the Dave Ramsey approach is like financial security. Then you go into financial independence is like, could you not work for a year
Yeah,
and be
and do
okay,
whatever you want.
right? Maybe you have a couple streams of income that can support you, but you still need to have a job. Then financial freedom is what everyone glamorizes, is really having assets that cover your cost of living every single month and you don't ever have to work again.
Mm.
And I think for
Yeah, I
Black
agree.
Americans, many of us, I mean, we're because of so many systemic issues and trauma, and I could go into a whole bag of reasons why the Black community is in this state, but we are overly focused on dignity and security. Maybe because we have to be, right? But I want to
Okay.
get more people out of that so we can, okay, get your dignity, get your security, and now let's start looking at financial freedom and independence, because really people who are have security and looking for independence, they have different problems. People who have independence and looking for freedom, they have different problems. They're like, okay, how can I beat the tax code? How can I, what do I do with
Exactly.
my cash, my disposable income? What do I invest it? Right? That's a different problem than someone's like, how do I pay my light
A
bill?
completely different problem. Those
You
are
know what I
totally
mean?
different problems.
So I think if we can get more Black Americans into the financial security piece and start striving towards financial independence, we can eventually really start to change the narrative and perspective of money in our community. And that's really what the Shine Heart family is trying to do, is take people to financial independence and freedom, one
Yeah.
conversation at a time.
Yeah, I think that starts with access though. Like a lot of times people are stuck in the dignity and security cycle because of a lack of access, or historically it was due to a lack of access to the resources necessary to reach independence and freedom. They even add in another one. This might fit uh, between security and
Independence.
independence, and it would be like interdependence, like
Mhm.
financial interdependence, where people and this is not even just a Black issue. This is really a like American issue, but people are pigeonholed into the lifestyle according to their salary.
Mhm.
So they're never really paying bills in full. They're never really getting it's the perpetual cycle of credit. That's why I said it's like an interdependence thing.
Mhm.
And then next will become, would be like independence and then freedom.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I do agree with those. Those are definitely four buckets. I just think that the we can't not can't, but we shouldn't look at it like that without, just like you said, at first pointing to all of the systemic things that cause that, because that's why I took it out of just a black issue and said it's an American issue because it's the school system that teaches them to operate like that.
Mm.
So, and all, not just, not just the black school system, other school systems, all of the school systems teach them that mentality. So people are trained to treat money that way. They're trained to live scarcely. So with what you're doing, hopefully, is to break that. It's kind of like are you pulling out the Men in Black, memory erase thing, and like
Yeah,
starting them over because you gotta untrain that mindset.
you
I
have to
remember
unlearn
when
so many bad habits, man, and so
my
many
my
perceptions.
first my first corporate job, I used to spend so much money. Like I don't even want to think about it because I always do. Whenever I've lost money in the past, I always think about what I could have did with it if I invested. So I try not to think like so much. I'm like, I used to spend like when I would go like um a significant part of my career, I was a event promoter and like club promoter, and I used to spend so much money because when you're a club promoter, you got to go
That's
to
the
other people's
lifestyle.
parties and other people's events. So I got to go
You
out,
gotta
buy
show out. You
bottles,
gotta
all
go
this.
up
Yeah,
there.
so much money. Um, and even when I was starting with like money that I've lost just doing stuff like that, I'm like, man, I could have used that on something
You could have
completely
had three,
different and
four
better.
properties.
Yeah, depending on what city it was in, I could have had more than that.
Yeah,
Could have had
Philly
a
or Detroit, you would
compound.
have been loaded.
Right, I could have had a compound. But yeah, so I mean, I really think this. I mean, and that came from the way that I was taught. It came from you know pop culture. It came from
Mhm.
a lot of things that I was absorbing at a young age, and I just at one, it kind of like a switch just flipped, like, and
Mhm.
I'm like,
Mhm.
okay, all
I
right,
mean, and plus,
let's
when you're in
see
the
what
nightlife
happens.
field, that's kind of the cost of doing business.
Yeah, yeah. It definitely is a part of the game. But I mean, just in general, like there's things that were not just that stuff. I mean, all kinds of stuff that I
Yeah, you
that
don't need
when
to
I
get
think
into
about it
all the
now,
stuff you spend money on
yeah,
right now. I don't want to hear
yeah.
about your other clubs you were going to. Not right now,
Oh
anyway.
no, everybody has to pay their bills, Johnny.
Oh man, so it's great. It's great to think about just to have conversations with like-minded individuals, and on this
Yeah,
platform, we talk to so many incredible thinkers and leaders, and um, I really believe that passion changes everything, and that really, when you work in your passion, you find yourself closer to your purpose, because really what
mm,
we seek is seeking us. That's a quote that I remember: what you seek is seeking you. And so I ask
yeah.
this question to every leader that I sit down with, is like, what is your passion and when did you know?
Hmm. So my passion has always been building things and destroying them and rebuilding things, like making things better. Um, I used to think I wanted to be an architect. Then
Mm,
I thought that my passion was in marketing, uh, and somewhere in there, I developed a passion for a community development. But the common thread between all three of those is that I like my I have a passion for change. Like I can see things. I have like a visions of things being different, and
mm,
then I act on it. It doesn't
mm.
just remain a vision. I don't just like sit on ideas. I'm the type of person that you're gonna have to tell me no a lot of times. Like if I see it, then I'm like, okay, I think this is something that is going to benefit the folks. I'm gonna try my best to make it happen. Like I'm
Is that
gonna
your superpower? You feel like you're a visionary?
I wouldn't say that's my superpower because it comes naturally.
Mm,
I would feel like my superpower. I feel like is uh the ability to start over like nothing ever happened.
mm,
Like I think that's that might be my superpower. it's not just the fact that I can build something, but that I can also look at it like, okay, I can see this 20 steps ahead, and I'm looking at a pile of dirt right now, but I can see what the skyscraper is going to look like. And I just got to like, and now I'm going to start from the Space Needle on top and build it in reverse back down to the bottom, just to make sure that the structure and the top is solid. You know,
That's part of the DNA of a great quarterback, where they can forget the last play and just move
yeah,
on.
yeah,
The next play
yeah,
like it
yeah.
never
You
happened.
got to. You got to something that you said earlier. People got to take the emotion out of it, because that's the part that makes you harp onto it and go, oh man, I just threw an interception, or damn, I just got sacked again, and I'm like, nah, but this touchdown I'm about to throw though, ooh, you don't even know, ooh, you don't know. Wait till you see it. Matter of fact, I'm gonna run for it.
Also, Michael Vick or some.
Yeah, right, exactly, man. Vic, my man. Vic is my guy.
That's real. So, what's your greatest fear, Mr. Quarterback?
Hmm. It's not the sack. It's definitely not the sack. It's not the interception. My greatest fear is I am haunted by the things that I never did, or things I never said, or the actions I never took. So it's not even
Regret.
a fear. Yeah, it's like I wouldn't even necessarily even call it regret, because it's kind of like I'll say, oh, this was probably the best way to handle it, but I didn't do it that way.
Mm.
And I'm like, okay, noted, got it. Next time. Like I remember one time when I was a kid, and this is funny, I just had to do with money. I remember this one time when I was a kid, and I was coming out of a pizza store, and this homeless guy asked me for like money. And I was like, oh, I don't got it, just because that's just what people used to do. And
Hmm.
I actually had $1 in my pocket, but I only had $1 left. I had spent all the rest of my money in the store, and I only had $1 left. And it always like just bothered me later on. I'm like, yo, I could have gave him that dollar. Like, like what was I going to do with it? Like, I had already spent all the rest of it. It wouldn't have killed me to be flat broke. But it just those sort of things, like, doing not doing the right thing, or not, always thinking about what is a better way to be able to improve on future dealings.
Yeah, no, that's deeper. I think about that all the time, especially living in DC. I feel like God wears different uniforms and different costumes, and so you never know when it's like a test.
Mm-hmm.
And I always give something to the homeless person if I have it. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, one day
Yeah,
I don't hold cash very
yeah,
often. I'm
yeah,
gonna cash
yeah.
for
Me either.
society, and
That's
sometimes
my
I'm like, I really don't got it. And I'm not about to like inconvenience myself, because we're also living in America, and everyone can. I feel like a lot of people can do something with their time, but that's a different
yeah.
conversation.
I mean, I feel like that's a job. I feel like what they're doing is a job. So,
It is a job,
so yeah,
but
yeah,
it's
that's what
like
I'm
it's
saying.
like it's 100% commission though. Like you really got you only eat what you kill. But I do feel like if I got cash, I
Exactly,
definitely will give it to
exactly.
someone, because you never know. Like at the same moment, I desire financial abundance. I desire some type of
Mm-hmm.
opportunity. And if I'm not willing to like give to someone else, it's like, how can
Then
I be
how
deserving
do
of
I
someone else
expect to
to give to
receive?
me?
Hmm.
Exactly. You know, and so
They
I
always say that when you give to somebody else, they say that when you give to somebody else, your hand has to open. When you
Mhm.
don't give, then your hand stays closed, and you can't
Mhm.
receive anything with a closed hand.
Giving starts the receiving process.
That's
And
a
I've
fact.
always remembered that. It's a
How
quote from
poignant.
Jim Rohn, man. And so I give as much as I can, man, because
Hmm.
I want to receive, and I'm becoming a good receiver. But
Absolutely.
you definitely feel like, or seem to be, a very philosophical person. I think we have that in common. And I imagine everyone walking this earth has a dream or a vision, but some people haven't realized that dream. What separates those who have made their dreams a reality and those who haven't?
Hmm. Passion. I can say passion. I can say uh, knowledge. Um, Those would be the only really two things that I think could stop you. If you don't know how to do what it is that you're trying to do and you don't have a passion to figure it out, then you won't achieve anything. Like
Mm,
you like if you wait for it to come to you, if you think it's just going to fall in your lap, then it's not going to happen. I mean,
mm,
sometimes it happens, but do you want to roll the dice like that? Do you want to just sit there and hope that today is the day, like, or do
mhm.
you want to get out and get something?
Yeah,
They had it right.
yeah, that's interesting because sometimes I think about people
Goody
who
Mob, Goody Mob, yeah,
Goody Mob. Yeah, is
yeah,
that Goody Mob? You
yeah,
better
I think
get
so.
out and get some. I don't know who's
Yeah.
saying that. I feel like that was before Goody Mob. That was way before Goody Mob.
Thank you. It is, yes.
Oh, I wish I said it.
Yeah, this one did
He's
too.
from Atlanta, so he knows.
That's Goody, exactly. That was Cujo. That's my man, Cujo
Oh,
Goody.
sometimes you think about people who have things that we aspire to,
Mhm.
especially you think about money or titles or positions, and we equate people who have achieved something to them automatically being a good person. Talk about that experience for you, like, you know, how do you separate people from being good people to having accomplished things or making a lot of money? Like,
Mhm.
do they where do they overlap and how are they separate?
I have a very funny a philosophy on this. First, I recommend a book. It's called From Predators to Icons, and it's
Mm,
about some of everybody's favorite entrepreneurs to name drop, but what they really did to get in the positions that they have. And a very good friend of mine and I, we always joke about the shortcut. Like that we have had to take the long way in our careers and in our respective careers because we weren't willing to do what everybody else was willing to do to get there faster
mm,
because we got to go to sleep at night and we like
mm,
go to sleep. We don't, load up on pills and pass out. Like we actually need to be able to lay down, close our eyes with a clear conscience and go to sleep.
mm-hmm.
Uh, so that is my perspective on that. I can't get into any detail, but I will say that new levels, new devils, and
Mm-hmm.
Big was right. Biggie was right. More money, more problems.
No money, no
Uh,
problems.
the more money you come across, the more problems you see. It's not a. I think the misconception is that it's not uh like a larger or more important. There could be the same level as the problems that you were dealing with before. It's just that now you don't have those problems. Now you have
Mm,
this new set of problems. And hopefully you're not still dealing with the old set of problems too, but now you got a new set of problems and a new way to deal with people um, that is more stringent and there's more eyes watching
mm,
for
mm,
how you handle these types of situations. And
mm.
even when people do to you as you wouldn't do to them, you still can't, you can't reciprocate, you can't retaliate.
Yeah.
Uh, you
When
got
they
to
go
make
low,
sure
you
that
go
you,
high.
okay, I
You gotta
guess that too.
vibrate on a
You
higher
got to
frequency. I always,
vibrate higher.
you
Yeah,
gotta
but
vibrate
yeah,
higher, man. You can't
yeah,
let people bring you to their frequency. You gotta bring people to your frequency.
exactly, exactly. So that's kind of what it's like. It's like, just having a position or having a title or all that stuff. It doesn't necessarily make you a good person, even if the company's reputation is
Mm,
the best. And it doesn't matter. Like you have to make sure that you always operate in line with your morals and your own principles. Because again, like you said, people will try to pull you, up or down to their level.
mm-hmm.
And, you know, if
Hey,
that's not the way if that's not the way you operate, then you got to be strong.
21 Savage said it best. He says, "If you betray me, you're dead to me. I disrespect you respectfully."
Hmm.
That's how I move. Like I'll be like, "All right, it's cool." Whole time
Yeah,
I'm cutting you off.
yeah, yeah. They don't even know. They
Yeah.
don't realize it until it's too late.
So last question before I let you go, man. What advice would you give to Black Americans to be successful in the 21st century? We have about 6 or 7 of our tribe members on the call, and I would love for you to drop some gems on the mindset for going from financial security to financial independence, and what things you're thinking about in culture right now.
So the most important thing that you can do is not forget that you're Black, especially when you're spending your money, when you're hiring, when you are looking for contractors, when you are um, posting people's businesses, when you're, you know, anything that you're doing, always keep in the front of your mind, not in the back of your mind, that you're Black first. Because that's how they look at you. So that's how you should operate. We got 28 and some change years left before the year 2050. And this conversation, the things that I'm saying to you right now, if it is not resonating at this moment, is going to resonate with you at that time, because we can't enter a space where we have the number majority, but we don't have any power, or we don't have any resources, and we're not able to compete in the world economy, not just in the U.S. I'm sure that there's people here, most of the people here are like in America, but we have to become our own world superpower, because money talks. And yeah.
You can drop the mic on that one, man. Let everyone know how they can find you, brother. What you have coming up.
So much. So
just drop your Instagram, your LinkedIn, your website.
It's really all the same. Just RashadLambert.com, at Rashad Lambert on Twitter, Instagram. LinkedIn is LinkedIn.com/n/Mr. Lambert. But if you go to Google, my homie G, and you put my name in, everything comes up. So you should
definitely follow Rashad on Instagram. He has all the illest photo dumps. It's always like quotes, random pictures, but it's like a story and it's poetic. He's an artist on his carousel post. So y'all check him out. If you guys want to connect with me, I'm at One Johnny Bailey on Instagram, One Johnny Bailey on LinkedIn. Of course, follow the movement Shine Hard Family on Instagram. Visit the website shinehardfamily.org. As I mentioned earlier, we are in the midst of open enrollment for our online course, the Legacy Accelerator. I'll drop the link in the chat. It is an 8-week course that will help you discover the wealth you already possess. If you can't make this particular cohort, we'll have another cohort in the fall. So definitely get on the list, subscribe, and get more information around conversations like this with brilliant cultural leaders, or really tangible, instructive information around how you can find your roots, pay off your debt, increase your net worth, and leave a legacy for yourself and your family. I appreciate you guys tuning in. Remember, start your business, buy Black first, and lift as you climb. And if they ask you why, the reason is we are the leaders of right now. Y'all shine hard. See you next week. Peace. Rashad, thanks, bro.
No problem, man. Anytime.